This afternoon is all about you. I'm here to facilitate. I'm standing in front of you, but I never project that I have all the answers. So we're going to do this together. We're going to all learn together how to become a person of influence. So it's going to be very interactive. So the most introverted person here is going to have an opportunity to say something, and the most extroverted people here are going to have a chance to say something because we're going to all learn together. If you be so kind, go ahead and turn to page number 6 in your workbook, because I want to go ahead and walk through what we're going to cover. We're going to take a look at the word influence. That's going to be the I and the N and the F, and the L and the U and the E and the N and the C and the E and the R, because each of those letters means something. And we're going to have a conversation about it. We'll have a couple of exercises that we'll go through. And we'll walk through the entire book. And I want you to feel free to ask any questions that you might have as we go along the way. You don't have to wait until the very end. Just ask your questions. Anything that's puzzling you, any type of scenario that you want to talk about, any issues that you're dealing with in the workplace right now, anything that might be going on to add value to what we'll talk about, please, by all means, interject as we go through. So when you're doing influence inventory, if you were to do a introspection and just think about who in your life, and I think about this, your family, your neighbors, your colleagues in the workplace, perhaps your boss, those that you lead, any number of people within your sphere of influence when it comes to influencing them with your leadership. I want to take you back to May of 2012. Now, those of you in the back, you can't see all the faces on here, but every May, Time Magazine publishes this particular issue. And they ask us to take a look at the world's most influential people. And when you open up the content and you read it, you'll quickly come to learn that all of these different people have a very unique way of influencing people in their lives. Different questions is just something for you to think about. What do you think about that last question? Do you influence eagles or turkeys?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. It could also be ducks and eagles, because they're still part of the bird family, but they are diametrically opposed. So an eagle flies by itself at very high altitudes. They're higher than the helicopter. They have ability to see. Their eyesight is so keen that from that distance, 10,000, 15,000 feet, they can see prey all the way on the ground. It's pretty incredible. Approximately a 6-foot wingspan. And they don't fly in groups. They fly solo. And they're very distinctive. You can see them from great distances. They usually have the white head and the long black wings when they're flying through the air. Whereas the duck and the turkey, even though they're part of the bird family, they're confined to the ground. And they usually run in groups, in packs. And they usually leave a little bit of mess behind them. How do you influence, right? And so here you are on page number 9. So the first one is, do you influence by force? In other words, there's no choice in the decision. Do you influence by intimidation? So you're telling your team and your colleagues, it's my way or the highway. Do you influence by manipulation? There's a winner and there's a loser. Do you influence by way of position? In other words, people follow because they have to. Do you influence by way of an exchange where there's a win-win situation? Do you influence by persuasion? People follow us because they want to. And then this last one here is, do you follow by way of respect? You all know this gentleman, right? You all know who that is? Shout it out if you happen to know who that is. Anybody? You've seen him before. It's the world's #1 leadership expert on the planet. Don't all say it at the same time.
Is that John Nelson?
Yes, it is. In form of a question. Absolutely. You knew it wasn't John F. Kennedy, so you knew it. The next question I have for you before we actually get into the word influence is, how many do you influence? So on page number 10, the core principle here is that as a leader, the number of people who follow is based upon my level of influence, the number of people. And then keep in mind that everybody influences somebody. How many of us are parents? A lot of us are parents. A lot of times where if you have boys, you didn't want to go to soccer practice and football practice and baseball practice because you had other things to do. Your son may not have been the best person on the team, and you knew it. In my case, my middle son, I always took him to baseball practice and baseball games, but he struck out more than any other of them on the team. But I still had to support him. I had to be there clapping him on. That's okay, we'll get him next time. Right? That was the first inning. Right? So the fourth inning, he comes around again, and there he goes. Oh man, go get him. You'll get him next time. Go get him next time, right? And then he'll get up again in the seventh inning, because when they were playing Pee Wee, they only went to 7 innings. Okay, look, the score is 4-3, and you're the last one to bat. And I already knew, but I have to encourage, because I'm influencing him. I'm helping him with his motivation and his self-esteem. And go get him, son. You can do this thing. Keep your eye on the ball. Grip that bat. Come on now. Give it all you got. And he's, man, we'll get him next game. That's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get him on the next game. Here's another question. When do we influence? Now, the principle here there at the bottom of page number 10 is our value and significance rises when we influence others at a time where it is needed most. Someone read that quote at the bottom of page 10 by Winston Churchill.
There comes a special moment in everyone's life, a moment for which that person was born, a special opportunity when he sees it will fulfill his mission, a mission for which he is uniquely qualified. In that moment, he finds greatness. It is his finest hour.
Now, is there anything in particular with that quote that kind of resonates with you? Anything in particular that speaks to you? This is coming from Winston Churchill.
You mean about when he said the quote?
Yeah, anything about the quote in particular that sort of resonates with you? Any particular phrase or anything at all?
I was just going to say, a mission for which he is uniquely qualified.
Right. You were about to say?
It seems like everybody will have their moment of greatness at some point.
At some point, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
For me, it's the phrase that says when he seizes it.
When he seizes it.
Because basically, we all have that unique moment.
Right.
But that moment can pass.
Right.
So you have to seize it. It's not like it just comes to you.
Right. So there's a difference between if he had said when he seizes it, as opposed to if he seizes it. Yeah. Here's the part that really resonates with me in this particular quote, and it was already echoed here at this table. A mission for which he is uniquely qualified. Well, how do you know you're uniquely qualified for any particular thing? Well, you kind of know the gift that you have because it brings you a lot of fulfillment. So I love to teach. I've always been that way. It's just a gift that I have. I teach in a lot of different forms and venues. I teach children, middle school, high school, college. I teach men. I teach in government settings. I teach corporations, nonprofits, and I teach in the church. It's just something I love to do. It's something I'm uniquely qualified to do. And so when the opportunities come, I seize it. Leaders are readers. Translation. As leaders, you and I are always interested in learning more. So leaders sense the following things. Number one, when do you influence others? Leaders sense teachable moments. So big sister is helping little brother at a time where he's making a transition. Now you can't see it from the back, but you know when you were raising your children, when they were at a certain age, they always drank from a plastic cup because you know they're going to drop it, and you don't want to clean up the glass. You don't want anyone stepping on it, cutting their feet. Little sister is helping her little brother. It's a teachable moment. Now start to drink from a glass. And as a leader, we always know when those teachable moments make a difference in the life of a person. So leaders can always sense that. We can also sense those breakthrough places as leaders. Catalyst times. These are times where that light bulb actually starts to go off in the minds of the people that you're leading. Light bulb kind of goes off. Oh, I get it. I'm really starting to get it. And leaders can sense those catalyst times. I oftentimes would be able to sense it right in the staff meeting. Part of what I would do is make sure that just before we get into the meat of the matter, we would go around the table and everybody would have a chance to articulate whatever it is that was on their mind or some type of a good report that happened as a result of something that they did. And we would talk about that. And I would watch how people's eyes would light up as their colleagues would share different things that were going on in the organization or in their lives that would be uplifting. And that's when leaders start to sense that there's a shift in the lives of people. That light bulb goes off, they start to get it. Next question is this: why do I influence others? So the principle here is why you do something will ultimately determine what you do. And the right motives are crucial to people because leadership functions on the basis of trust. We've heard that one before, trust. Do you think that your people trust you?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That goes a very, very, very long way, right? That is key. In other words, our word is our bond. So on page number 11, right motives are crucial to people because leadership functions on the basis of trust. We talked about that. And then at the very bottom, continual wrong motives as a result of bad character. At the bottom of page number 11. Continual wrong motives is a result of bad character. Now, very interesting. Leadership is influence. These are insights. Our influence with others are usually not in all areas. With influence comes responsibility. My influence with others is positive or negative. Very rarely is it right in the middle. It's usually going to be positive or negative. Our influence can grow, and people of positive influence add value to others. 10 ways to increase influence. Number one is the word that we've already heard, but this is so true. It resonates with us all, is that you and I, in order to influence people, we have to have integrity. The next one that I want to dive into is nurture. Next one is faith. This is number 3, faith. This is over on page number 20. You have to be aware of yourself so that we can be in a position to help others. Because a lot of the people that we lead and manage and supervise just don't even know that they have the potential to do A, B, or C. And our job is to kind of help them to navigate and get to where they should be so that they can be the best, and ultimately our organization and our company can be the best. With the L. So the L is look at the speaker. Obviously, she's not looking at him because she's had enough. or whatever the reason might be. The A is ask questions, and I would go as far as to say ask open-ended questions. As leaders, as we continue to learn and go along, especially when you take your communications classes, you'll find that there's a lot of value in asking open-ended questions so you'll get an open-ended answer. But with an open-ended question that leads to an open-ended answer, now we can start to get to resolution. The first D is don't interrupt. So I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. I'll just raise my hand. But I have been in far too many meetings where people are trying to get a great point across, and the chair or somebody else in the meeting cuts them off halfway through their point. And I've always been the type of person that does not allow that to continue. The person that's doing the cutting off of the person that's trying to make a good point, I have a conversation with them behind closed doors to let them know what they're doing, because it could be a blind spot. But if they continue to do it, and I have another conversation, it's a little bit more stern and saying, you've got to stop doing this. Because how would you feel, and you're trying to make a great point at a staff meeting with 15 people in there, and you get halfway through your sentence and you get cut off? How would that make you feel? The second D is don't change the subject. E is emotion, and then the R is responsive listening. Here's some data points for you that I wanted to share. When we talk, when I talk, when you talk, we talk at about 180 words a minute, approximately, some more, some less. But when we listen, it's more in the area of about 300 to 500 words a minute. So that's why we have to really take the time and look at people and ask questions and don't interrupt and don't change the subject. Take the emotion out of it and have some responsive listening. Because oftentimes what we're hearing is way ahead of what people are actually saying. And that's why people have a tendency to cut you off before you made your point. Well, you don't even feedback, that type of thing, in terms of what we've learned this afternoon. And hopefully you feel that it was time well spent. You picked up some additional information that maybe you didn't know. But what are your general thoughts? Anybody? Yes, sir.
Thank you. It was actually a lot of good information. I liked the way you presented it to us. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.